What's up, everybody? How you doing? Welcome back to the Punk Rock Review. This is an interesting video. This is not something I typically do on this channel, but I kind of like to, I don't know, I kind of do whatever I feel like doing, honestly. But this is a topic that is pretty important to me. I've got a lot of friends in bands. I've got a lot of, I own a label. I think all of the bands on my label are on the platform we're discussing today. So basically, we're going to talk about Spotify for a few minutes. I know it's a hot button topic right now, and I think there's a lot of people that misunderstand things, but I also think that there's a lot of room for improvement. So, that being said, I wrote some notes down. I would like to try to be as articulate as I can be on the subject. I invite discussion, but I also demand respect as far as, like, if you're going to be in the comments, if you're being just insane, not towards me, like, whatever, but, like, just with each other. Come on, man. Let's just, we can talk about this and be cool. I think the crowd that I'm cultivating on this channel can do that. It took me a little while to finally decide to make this video. I even filmed an entire podcast with my buddy Nitty. I'm not even putting it up, man. Like, we just went at each other's throats a little too much. But it took that for me to come to this kind of conclusion. And I think it's important to hear each other out. And we've both spent a lot of time talking about this. And, like I said, it's an important subject. So before I get much more further into this, please, if you don't mind, like the video if you're enjoying my content. Please subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying my content. I put a lot of work into this. It's become my full-time job, but I'm not getting full-time pay yet. So, yeah, just please do that if you don't mind. If you want to support further, I've got a record shop in Houston. You can come check me out. You can check out my Instagram or my Bandcamp or my Patreon. There's ways to support if you want to outside of just watching the videos. You don't have to. So if you're here, that is enough for me. I appreciate it. I think I'm going to basically read off my notes for a moment. But we got to ask a couple of questions. The most important question to me is Spotify, is it good? That's really subjective, man. There's no right or wrong answer to that, in my opinion. Some people like it, some people don't. Is it overall good? I personally think that it is, but I can understand why some people may not agree with that. It just depends on what you're trying to get out of your music as a consumer, and as an artist, what is it you're trying to get out of making music, okay? So some people may like to have a more personal relationship with their music, as in they want to play a CD or put a record on the table, play it, and move about their day. They might want to put a small amount of music on their phone that they can go right around and get tons and tons of repetition of the same songs. They can learn the music, learn the lyrics, that's how we used to do it back in the 90s. And so I have no issue with that. I personally like the randomization of playlists. I create my own playlists, but I like that. I can put it on and I have a lot, like 2,000 songs that it just goes random, I enjoy that. But again, it's incredibly personal. And I don't think there's any right way to answer that question. I do think that Spotify has become radio, essentially. And this is where the things start to get hairy. You have radio where they basically promote your music for you. You don't really get paid on it. They get advertising dollars to keep the radio stations up, but the promotion will get you people to your shows, etc., etc. Okay, I'm not talking about whether or not this should have been changed at the very beginning of things. I'm just talking about like how it is, all right? What happened was in the late 90s, early 2000s, pirating music became very popular, became a way that everybody shared music, and a lot of the more popular artists that depended upon like album sales, big giant stadium shows and such, were losing money hand over fist. And their artwork isn't any less important than a smaller band's just because they're famous and rich. That's not fair. They got what they got because of their talents. So, with the, Napster and Pirate Bay and LimeWire and all that stuff, it was costing a lot of people all the stuff that they worked hard for. And so streaming became a thing. It was birthed. The genesis of streaming was only like 20 years ago. Maybe a little longer than that, but I mean, about 20 years ago, we started doing this. And so I think people fail to recognize the fact that streaming is essentially radio now. I'm a little surprised that people even get paid with streaming because it's not the same as CD sales. Somebody gives you $12 a month and they listen to, endless music. It's hard to quantify that into like, what is that worth? You know what I'm saying? Whereas if you buy a record you know what it's worth. You bought the record, it's worth whatever, let's say $20, $30, or whatever, right? They get the percentage out of that. So you have to start talking about, okay, well, how do we start to work on getting the artists more money? I personally think that there's a lot of ways to do it. One thing about Spotify is it's a tool. You can use it to your benefit regardless of the size of your band. But you also have to understand that when you look at like pay structures, you're going to have artists that are big, Post Malone, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, these guys, right? They're going to command more money per stream, however you want to put it, than an artist that's got 500 listeners that gets a couple thousand streams per month, right? Is that fair? I don't know. I personally think that there's nothing wrong with that, because if you're bringing all the people to the platform, I think you deserve the lion's share of the revenue that gets given to the artists. I just found out recently that Spotify pays, found out, this is what, as far as I know, they pay out 70% of their revenue to the artists and the rights holders to the music. Okay, that's a whole other conversation. But they pay out 70% to the people that own the music. That answers a lot of questions that I had. Is it perfect? No. Should it change? Probably. But I thought it was going to be a lot less than that. I was thinking it was like a quarter, honestly, 25%. So in order to get everybody happy, I think there's something we can do with Spotify that can appease both sides. It puts the power of the money going to the artists in the hands of their fans. I think that's important. I think that's very, very important, because I think half of the battle is that their fans want them to get more money, and the artists need their fans. And if their fans are paying money, they should see something from that. At least I think so. So I think Spotify should add a second kind of account where customers don't stream the music. They don't have a monthly cost, but they can purchase a digital album and have a library build up similar to iTunes. But you have a pay scale more in line with Bandcamp, whereas they get the majority of the money, right? Spotify, it's not as difficult on Spotify to host that. I would think, is they can just have a link to download it. I don't know all the specifications on all this stuff, so I'm just speculating here. I think they should be able to get a very large amount, and even if it stays 70%, but I give them $10 for an album and the band gets $7 of those dollars, I think that's way more fair. Okay, so while editing this, I remembered something that my wife had told me. She said that another idea that she really liked a lot, and I agree with this, is that while they would have to set this up on the infrastructure of Bandcamp, but like I think it could work. The initial costs might be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if I'm subscribing to their streaming service, I think all the profits from my monthly pay should only go to bands that I listen to than the current pay structure. But some people don't want to do that, man. And like bands like Taylor Swift, or artists like Taylor Swift, she's got millions of people that listen to her music every month. She's probably just fine getting what she's getting off of Spotify. But the consumer can pick what they prefer. That means they get a familiar app and a place to play their music, and the artists let their fans choose how they get paid. I think most people will still stream, but a meaningful number of people like us, the people like me, I would love this option, honestly, will pay for the albums. Then they get album sales calculated the old-fashioned way. Artists can release albums both ways, maybe adding additional material on the side where the albums are purchased to incentivize fans to go over there and do that. You don't want to, or you don't have the money to do it, and you want to go with the ad, the ones with ads and all that stuff, and you just want to listen to Spotify, cool. But if you're like a diehard fan, or if you have a little extra money and you want to pay for it, hey, there's an extra song over here, or there might even be 2 extra songs. It is not available on the streaming side. I think that would really incentivize people, and the people that just can't do it, they can't do it. It is what it is. Also, it would be up to the artist if they want to do both options. If they want to have their stuff only available on streaming or only available on the purchase per album or song, that's completely up to them too. You don't have to do it where you have additional content. You can just choose any way you want to do it. I personally think the more options, the better. And if you give your fans an option, the ones that can afford to buy it outright and get an extra song, absolutely will. I think indie bands are the most bands affected by streaming, but could also be the most that are benefiting from the second option. So as far as like how I feel about Spotify, here's some notes that I wrote down. I want artists to get paid more from Spotify if they can. We don't actually know if they can yet, because Spotify's margins and their profits aren't public. They're not a public company yet. I want transparency within Spotify. Desperately. That'll answer so many questions because my opinion is mostly formed when I actually have like facts, when I have numbers, when I can come with data. If I don't have that stuff, I don't have an opinion most of the time. I'm like, well, it's fine like it is because we don't know any better. We don't know, and people make a lot of assumptions, and that's okay too. If you're allowed to make an assumption, go for it. I think the CEOs are like or CEO, whatever it is likely to get way overpaid. All right, but if you took all that money and you divided it between every artist on Spotify, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. So it's a thing of like maybe they should get paid a pretty nice sum. They're doing a lot of work. My wife went to school for business. I talked to her for literally hours about this stuff, and I got a lot of insight from a different perspective. Not that they should get millions and millions and millions of dollars. They should get paid handsomely, in my opinion. But I also understand that the advantages of using this platform as is, and I personally don't think that it makes sense for bands to just jump ship. And I certainly don't want to jump ship and just make my life more difficult for bands that aren't necessarily doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And I know it may sound kind of harsh, but I like the simplicity and the ease of Bandcamp. I pay a monthly fee to use it. Like, why should I have my life more difficult because a particular band that is struggling right now may not even be using the platform the right way? But I also think that Spotify needs to have like a course before you can even put their music on there. This is how you use Spotify. I've talked to a lot of bands in the past few weeks, and a lot of them don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to use the platform. So, and I don't have the band, but I've got a lot of bands that I talk with and I spend time with and I work with on my label that I've gotten to learn a few things in the past like few months that I didn't know about Spotify. You have to, again, as far as I understand it, submit your music early. They have to go through it. You have to explain what it is, what it's like, who you tour with, who you play with, who you sound like, what are some other similar bands. They then do test drops. They put your songs in playlists, okay? Now, if those songs get listens, you get a certain amount of points. If they get listens and likes, you get a certain amount of points for that. If you get listens, likes, and added to playlists, you get even more points. They take those points and they determine where they're going to put those songs. It is an algorithm, but it's not as if it's just, oh, you throw your music on there and you just hope. To a degree, sure. But if your songs are getting listens, they're getting likes, and they're getting full playthroughs, they're getting added to playlists, that's how you get, I don't want to call it push because it's not push. It's how you get, the algorithm picks it up. Also, if you're in a band, some of it is like dependent upon you and your friends, and it sucks, I guess, but it is part of the game. Get your friends to like your music. Get your friends to add it to playlists. Shoot me a message. Let me know. I'll play it on the channel. I'll talk about it. Like it is a community. And if you're not a megastar, you have to do the legwork to become a star. Or if you want to be popular, you have to put in the work. And the work just doesn't include writing and recording the music, unfortunately. Or you can just play shows, not do any social media, play in front of whoever shows up, and sell a shirt every now and then, and have a day job. It's completely up to you. But it's like, I feel like there's an awful lot of misunderstanding of the situation, misunderstanding of the platform. But I think having a second option where people could have a dedicated library to music on their device and it's not being hosted by Spotify, and Spotify is just the place where you can go get it now. It's like a store essentially. I think that'd be a really good option, and I also think maybe they could work with another platform like Bandcamp, because my preferred method of ingesting music is Bandcamp if I'm at home. Bandcamp or YouTube, honestly. I use a lot of YouTube. But like, Spotify's this big bad wolf. Where do we stop? I don't hear anybody griping about Apple Music, and I'm certain that they're not doing much better job, if a better job at all. Tidal, are they doing a better job? Probably not. We're going to start taking everything off of YouTube. I mean, okay, I guess. I don't see how this helps the bands. In my personal opinion, if you're in a band, you can utilize Spotify to help you. Whether they're paying you or not, that's, again, another conversation. I think I was always, when I first heard that Spotify paid bands, I was a little surprised. I was like, oh, okay, interesting, because I just looked at it like the radio, and you don't get paid on the radio. Again, another conversation. If there's a way for them to make money and then pay the bands, they 1,000,000% should. And they should pay them a fair amount, if they can. And I say if they can, not because I am siding with them at all, but because I understand that running the company has a lot of costs involved. And just as an example, they have data scientists, personnel that they have just on hand, programmers, tech support, etc. We have HR, marketing, physical buildings that they own or lease, their servers, hardware maintenance, and a whole lot of other things that we don't all necessarily know about, which is why I want and almost demand at this point transparency from them so that we can come to some kind of agreement. If you're not educated on any of this, then you have no way to improve the situation. Until we get the transparency needed to even figure this stuff out, we'll never be able to determine what a fair wage actually is. We don't even really know those figures. So without Spotify opening their doors to us and letting us, the collective us, people, the general public, know what their operating costs are and exactly what they're bringing in every year, we can speculate, but we don't have exact numbers. Until we have that information, we can't even move forward with this conversation, which is why I think that transparency might be the most important part of all of this, because then you can really take the information that you get and come up with a demand and then a plan or a counter argument or whatever. You can't do anything without the information. So the operating costs on Spotify are a lot of money, and if I keep hearing the figure of 1 cent per stream. Okay, I did some math and some Googling. So assuming that what I found out was correct, it said that Spotify streamed approximately 5 trillion streams last year, and they had $14.337 billion in revenue. So if you give the artists 1 cent per stream, that would equal $50 billion. That's 3.35 times their total revenue. My only point is they would have to triple their revenue every year based on these numbers just to pay for the 1 cent per stream. It just doesn't seem like something that would be possible, really. 3 times their revenue just to cover that. So operating costs, so they're going to have to 4 or 5x their revenue just to cover that kind of payout. And I don't know the technicalities behind all this stuff, but that just seems like a big ask. And this is why we need transparency, because those numbers are crazy and it doesn't even sound real, but we need to know if that's true or not. And it sounds to me like it's likely to be close to the truth. And so I don't know, man. This is such a complicated topic, honestly. Like if I have $12 a month that I'm spending on Spotify or whatever, and I'll pay more if I can help the bands. Like let's be really clear about this. If I can help the bands by paying $20 a month, I would do that. Okay, right now, don't have to question it. I would absolutely do that. But if I'm paying, let's say even $20 a month, how much of that goes to the artist? So if 1 cent per stream goes to the artist, so I can only listen to 1,200, and that's if there's no operating costs at all. So what, do I get 1,000 plays per month? It just starts to get really tricky. So I just think that they're not being very transparent, and that is to the detriment of their public image. I think that they should get out there with all the information they could get and give it to people. I think that bands need to understand what the platform is and how to use it. I think that people need to have a knowledge on how business works, and if you don't want to use the platform, don't use it. I certainly don't think you have to use it, but I think if you're an artist, it'll hinder your growth if you don't use the platform. So I don't know. This might be an unpopular opinion. I'm trying to be respectful. I want all the bands to make as much money as they can, but it's funny too, because all the punk bands that are talking about this stuff, all they ever talk about is we don't do it for the money and blah, 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 blah. And then it comes to this and they're like, well, we want more money. And I'm like, well, which one is it? Are you doing it for the money or are you doing it for the art? Because if you're doing it for the art, this is the biggest platform. And you're going to their platform and you're using their big ass platform. And they're giving the ability to millions and millions of people to hear your music. Now, that's not doing the work. Doing the work is now getting the people to listen to your music. Tell them about your band. Have a LinkedIn. Do your social media correctly. It's incredibly overwhelming. All right, I do YouTube videos. I don't just get paid because I make videos. Like, that's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. Nor should it necessarily. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything, but just owning a business and also being a creator, I have a unique perspective. I don't understand why people think that they're owed money for something because they put their art on a platform. Did it get any views? Or streams rather? If it did, how many? You're talking 1,000 for a whole month when you got people that raking in 1,000 a minute. It's you're not going to see comparable pay there. You shouldn't expect it. So I think the first step is transparency. I think the second step is teaching artists and bands and stuff how to use the platform. Spotify owes the artists this, because at the end of the day, they are making money with music that they didn't create, right? And I also know that the playlist thing, like the playlist and chill, whatever. I don't know. I'm hearing a lot about this stuff too. That's not really my game. I create my own playlists. I might go listen to like a band's radio station, like Rancid Radio or Coxbar Radio or whatever, right, to get some stuff I haven't heard before. But like that's exactly where it matters. Is that I do that all the time. I know a lot of people that do. So I routinely hear new artists that I like on these playlists. I like the songs, I add them to playlists, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm seeing them show up in more stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's how that works. So, I don't know. I think people definitely don't want to hear that it's not a completely broken system because they don't want to be wrong. And I do think that artists, you know, should get comparable pay. The only thing is like, artists have never been paid well. And I don't mean artists as a musician, it's just in general, artists. It's unfortunate, man, because we all enjoy it, you know? You get movie stars, you get rock stars, those people get paid a lot. But like your average musician or your average actor, your average painter, it sucks, man. They don't get paid near enough for all the amount of enjoyment we get out of it. And part of it's on the consumer. We don't pay enough for it. It's hard. It's a luxury item, you know? I sell records. It sucks sometimes. I get weeks where I don't make any money, man. And, music is a complicated genre. It's a complicated career path. And if you want to make a lot of money on music, it's going to be difficult, almost impossible. But if you have a tool in front of you and you just refuse to use it the way that it's designed to be used, and then you complain about it, I don't understand that. So I fully support anybody that wants to leave the platform. I don't think it's smart if you're a musician, but if you're a consumer and you're not getting the enjoyment out of it that you want, I would say go ahead and leave. I fully sponsor people going over to Bandcamp. I would wish Bandcamp would make their platform a little more user friendly, a little less clunky, so I could use it in my car. I don't want to use it in my car because I'm driving. It's too, you have to type things in too much. It's not just seamless. Like that's one of the things I like about Spotify. I can just hit go, get in my car and drive. I can't do that with Bandcamp, but I wish I could. But then if that happens with Bandcamp, rest assured, if Bandcamp makes it easier, that will cost money. That will come out of the artist's pocket. Like, people don't even understand that. So what I wish they would do, put tape decks back in cars, all right? Put tape decks back in cars. Then we can all just make mixtapes again. I would be so happy about that. But I love musicians. I respect musicians. My whole life is dedicated to promoting musicians. So, you know, I think I've got a good grasp on how things work and what should be done and not done. It's interesting, you know. I don't know that it's an easy conversation or an easy answer. I don't think we should just jump the gun and all bail on Spotify. And it ain't because of Spotify. I just think it would harm the community more than it would help. But, you know, is Spotify good? Yes and no. Do they pay enough? I don't know. I don't know what they're bringing in with their profits, and neither do most of y'all. So, you know, does it feel like it's enough? Obviously not. But, you know, when you go to a concert venue and you sell 12 tickets and they walk up to you with $60, you're going to feel like you didn't get paid enough, you know? So it just depends on what are you doing. I think the people that probably getting screwed the most are probably the people in the middle. Lower level people aren't seeing much, aren't expecting much, don't care about much, right? The megastars get plenty of money, right? I think it's the people in the middle, the ones that are like almost there, that are just about to make it. They're trying to make a living. Because I see a similar thing on YouTube with the creators. You know, it's hard to make a living on the platform. So I think there needs to be some help for that portion. Oh, and a union needs absolutely necessary. 100% think there should be a union with artists on Spotify. I don't know what. I think that if there's a union that I hear that there's 30,000 artists forming a union right now, right? My fear is that those artists are going to get this union formed. They're going to get some information from Spotify and then be completely shocked with what they find out. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they're going, see, told you, give us more money. I hope that's what happens. But I feel like they're going to be like, wait, what? This is how much they bring in. This is how much they spend to operate. There's this much left over. Huh. Because, you know, unfortunately, it is a business, so they're not going to do it for free. and nor should they. You're taking people's time, just like you're talking about. You know, but I think there's a fair way to make this all work. I think having the second option is the best idea. I think having a second, like, not account, you have the same account, but like you can either have your account be one of two kinds that just basically kind of like you have an old school iTunes account, but it's a Spotify account, and all that money goes, because I don't think iTunes gave their artists a bunch of money back then. I don't know. I'm speculating here, but I bet if you just took the two platforms and kind of melded them together and gave people more options and then gave a bigger piece of the pie to the artists that had people buying the albums, that would incentivize the artists to then give something exclusive to that part. It would just create a much healthier, I don't know what to call it, community environment. It would just be way better for everybody involved, I think. I think that the consumer would then become a fan again, and you'd be, because think about it, if you have $30 a month you can spend on bullshit, right? And by bullshit I just mean like non-food, non-this, whatever. You're young, you got a little bit of money you can spend on stuff outside of necessities, right? And you're like, I love music. So if you only have $30 a month, you can either be, I'm just going to stick with what I got. I'm going to spend it on this Spotify streaming service, but you're going to miss out on some songs. I don't think it would take very long before you would be getting interested in those extra songs. I think that, I don't know, it would come with liner notes and come with a PDF file that you can download and have like artwork and a thank you list and stuff. So I don't know. Sorry, my dog's making a lot of noise right now. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear back from you guys. Any musicians in the watching this, let me know how you guys are supposed to submit your music, because maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, maybe. Let me know what your thoughts are on all this. But Spotify, I think it could be fixed. I think it's a good platform. I think it's flawed, but it's good. I enjoy using it. I don't want it to go away. I don't want YouTube to take their music. I don't want Apple to take their music. Like, unless we're gonna just zap it all and go back to the '90s, which I guess is okay. But I mean, I don't think people remember how hard it was to even know about bands in the '90s. It all comes at a cost, man. And just because you record a bunch of music that you love and is important to you, and then you put it on a platform, unfortunately that doesn't equate making dollars. So I would recommend that the bands make sure that they're doing as much as they can, funnel the stuff from Spotify to your Bandcamp, make sure that your Bandcamp is up to date, make sure that you've got exclusive stuff going on, maybe even, I don't know, man, I don't know the complete answer, but I know that there's a lot of people that I personally know that are complaining. And one person, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about somebody else, okay? Other people. The guy that I'm talking about knows who he is. And the guy that I'm not talking about you, okay? Anyways. I know people that are not doing it right, and they're complaining, and it drives me nuts, man, because I just want them to go, here, dude, listen to this, try this. If you try it and it doesn't work out, then fine. And if we get information and transparency and it comes to light that they're absolutely bending people over and we're wrong, they're not giving 70%, they're giving 10% of their, total gross money to the artist, then things need to change. But we need data, we need time, but it needs to start now. All right? I think it needs to start now. We don't need to wait any longer. The artists need to have some kind of guarantee that we're going to find a solution. There's going to have to be compromise on both sides. It's inevitable. You can't have a change this big and not have compromise from both sides. But that being said, the artists need more money, and I think there's money there to be made. And I think the fans of the artists would happily pay a little bit more to make that happen. So, I don't know. I think this dialogue is healthy. It needs to start within... I don't know, man. I think if you're incredibly angry, you're not going to get a lot done. So I hope people can take a deep breath, center themselves, stay angry, but just chill, just figure it out, write your thoughts down. It took me doing this with my homie for a while to figure out, I need to come at this from a different angle. It just chill, and let's get a dialogue started. So if I have helped it anyway, I hope so. I hope these ideas spark some interest and get a dialogue going. But I don't know, man. I love all the artists. I love every band that I work with. Thank you for your time and your energy. It's an incredibly hard life creating, and you don't get enough money for it. I can tell you that from personal experience. So, anyways, let me know what you think. I feel like I'm about to get roasted. I hope not. I hope this is a better idea. Or I hope this is as good an idea as I think it is. But who knows? Some people are still going to tell me I'm stupid. It is what it is, folks. I'll see you soon, all right? Love you guys. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Support your favorite bands on their most lucrative platform, please. If you have a band that you like, please check Bandcamp and see if they're there. If they are, follow them there. Buy stuff from your bands there. Buy a shirt. Buy an album. Buy a digital album. But support the bands with your money if you have extra, please. These people need it. It's hard to do this stuff and make a living, so I feel like I'm just right in the middle of all of it. Like my opinions and feelings are right in the middle. And it's just everything in my life is like that. I don't ever have a side. I always think for myself. It's difficult. This is way longer than I thought it was gonna be. I can't shut the fuck up. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.